I hate single keyword ad groups. Can we just leave it there? Unless there is a very specific reason, I wouldn't go for that.
Hello and welcome to the Paid Media Lab podcast. My name is James. I'm the content lead here at Lunio, and in this episode, I'm joined by Inny, Senior PPC Manager at Circus PPC, where she works across a wide range of fast-growing lead gen and e-commerce clients. With a background in media and communications and a master's in corporate communications, marketing, and PR, Inny brings a strategic full funnel approach to paid search. Her ability to connect PPC with broader marketing and business objectives helps her clients ensure that their ad spend is fully aligned with getting them to where they want to go 6 to 12 months down the line. And at Circus PPC, she's well known for her hands-on and data-driven approach, making tailored optimization to accounts that help clients accelerate towards their key business goals. In this conversation, Inny shares her insights on how smarter account structure can help keep rising CPCs under control, even in high competition verticals. The effects of CPC inflation are being felt by many marketers out there today, and the reality is, unless you find creative ways to introduce greater efficiency into your campaigns, those increased costs are going to steadily eat away at your margins and bottom line. So in this interview, Inny covers some of the most common account structure pitfalls, how to blend the right mix of campaign types like PMax, demand gen, and search for cost management, the slow death of the once popular single keyword ad groups, and lots more. With all that said, let's get into the conversation. Inny, welcome to the Paid Media Lab. It's great to have you on. How are things with you today?
Yeah, all good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be here, and I'm hoping we're going to have a great chat.
Could you just maybe give us a little bit of an insight into what some of your key focuses are right now across the accounts you manage, and if there's anything you've been experimenting with or trying new approaches recently?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, shout out to Abby. Thanks so much. He is too kind. But yeah, I think the main things that we are working on the accounts at the moment are related to some financial changes that the companies are going through. So national insurance kicking in, the changes, taxes changes, and things like that. So it's a very volatile market, and when each individual client calculates how much extra money they need to make to cover those taxes increases, we do have the conversations about the profit margins, about the target changes, the ROI, the CPA, depending on what the clients are focusing on. So that's one of the hot topics. Other hot topics always include rising CPCs. I think we have that year in, year out. It's a hot topic whenever I ask that question. So yeah, those conversations. We do have a lot going on about the tracking changes as well. So privacy concerns. Bing is rolling out the UT change, the consent mode that is kicking on Monday, I believe, and they chose a great date because it's a bank holiday in England. So we will see how that plays out. So yeah, a lot of different chats related to the finances, the tracking, all sorts really.
Thinking about this in the context of account structure, why does account structure matter when it comes to helping manage CPCs?
I think account structure matters all the time, but it matters even more when CPCs are getting more expensive because for the same reason that I mentioned before, is because you want to squeeze out maximum value out of every single click you're receiving. So if one click costs you £1 or used to cost you £1, let's say in November last year, and now suddenly it costs £1.60. That's a pretty sharp increase. So you want to make sure that you maximize that value, maximize that conversion rate from every single click you're receiving. And that's where account structure really comes in play. It allows you to make sure that you show the right type of ad for the right type of keywords, and you land right type of search queries into the right landing page. So these four variables kind of make that full complete customer journey, and that can improve that conversion rate. So the account structure kind of helps you to do that because you're able to connect the right keywords with the right ad, with the right landing page, and structure them in a way that makes sense for the specific business, for the specific website you're working with. And that just becomes more important when CPCs are increasing because you just have to squeeze out maximum value out of it.
So that's the ideal outcome that we're trying to get to and that we're aiming towards. But in your experience and across the accounts and clients you've worked with, what are some of the most common account structure issues that contribute to inflated costs?
It tends to be one of the two. If there are big issues with the structure, it tends to be one of the two. The structure is either too granular or too broad. And there are issues with either of the sides. So if it's too broad, then you lose the ability to land the right person to the right landing page because you group too many keywords or you group too many ads together, you group too many different subjects. So if you are selling, I don't know, beds and tables and outside furniture and kitchen dining tables and all of those sort of things. And if someone is looking for the kitchen dining table, then you don't want to land them on the landing page that has outside garden furniture. And if you have too broad structure that doesn't really limit the ad only for those keywords, for the set of keywords, then that becomes a risk. And that is often what we see, is that those search terms that are not really relevant for this particular ad group are just squeezing through and they're draining some of that part of that budget because you land people in the wrong pages. Um, on the other hand, if the structure is too granular, then you shoot yourself in the foot for algorithm learning because you kind of take away a lot of that conversion data that algorithm needs to know which audiences are converting better or worse. So again, if you have, let's say, if you're selling kitchen dining tables and you have wooden tables and you then have, I don't know, what are the materials that can be that those dining tables could be made of. You just have square tables, you have round tables, you have all the other types of tables. Um, if you put them into different campaigns, then if you don't set it up correctly, then chances are that if one of those campaigns makes a sale, other campaigns don't really know that these types of customers could convert quite well, and people from this demographic, the interest, the search history, the people who watch these types of YouTube videos, they would be likely to convert for also different dining tables as well.
So if we, I know I've spoken with other people in the past, and yeah, especially in with the influx of AI, consolidation is important, like you said there, and trying to keep as much conversion data in one place as possible. But if we just double click on that for a second, obviously you want to keep your data as consolidated as possible, but there are instances where that's not gonna work. So what kinds of things do you consider before you make the decision, okay, this campaign needs to be segmented and separate from the broader or the bigger consolidated account?
I think you consider the type of audience. So whether these people that would be interested to this product or service are similar from people who would be interested to this product or service. You consider the landing pages, whether people from, let's say, who are looking for square dining tables, would it be relevant to land them on the page that has round dining tables? Probably not really. So you probably want to separate that at least into a different ad group, maybe not necessarily different campaign. So you consider the landing page, you consider the intent, and how similar those audiences can be. And you consider overall business goals as well. So if the business has certain preferences of what they want to sell, then you want to structure the account in a way so you would have control to be able to put more budget and more aggression towards the areas that the business wants to sell more. If the business says sell anything you want as long as you deliver this ROI or this CPA or this cost of sale, whatever they're going with, then it gives a little bit more freedom to you because they don't really mind what they're selling as long as it's profitable enough.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously within like a Google Ads account, there are lots of different campaign types that you can be running, and most businesses are typically running more than just a standard search campaign.
Yeah.
So that adds in an extra layer of complexity. So how do you think about using a blend of different campaign types, so search, PMAX, display, when it
Mm.
comes to structuring accounts, with the end goal of keeping costs down?
I think if the goal is to keep the cost down, then you probably focus more towards lower funnel, which tends to be search and shopping, if it's applicable. If for B2B businesses, it might not be. Um, I guess the end line is, what does the business want? If the business wants to do some branding and some brand visibility increase, then you are considering campaign types like display, demand gen, and other things, YouTube, action. Um, but if the business is efficiency, get me the most money out of the budget I give you, then that kind of narrows that down to a little bit lower funnel. So that is performance max, sometimes standard shopping, and search. So it very closely ties up with what is the end goal for the business, what are the targets for the business, what does PPC have to do to tie up into that overall journey that business is going to get them from A to B where they're going. So it's it's not one solution fits all. It's not five solution fits all either. And I think that's why we also had like a quite a funny chat recently in the team, why AI would never take over our jobs is because, well, AI can suggest the ways to approach it, but that's where the good specialist comes in place, is to actually listen to the goals and be like, okay, so this is the route for you, or this is the route for you, or this is the route for you based on your goals, the website that you have, how broad is the website, how many landing pages you have on that website, how many different product categories or service categories do you have. So all of that comes in play when you choose campaign type, campaign structure. So it really depends, I'd say. Unfortunately, I can't give one good answer.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Like it's something that comes up on this show a lot. It's just like it really does depend. But
Mm.
like you said, like the AI thing, I know with PMAX, there's this Google kind of in this way when they launched it seemed to want to sell it as this kind of, oh, just give us the budget, click go, and we'll kind of handle that. And it's very
Yep.
clear that if you do that, you're not going to get the results that you want 9 times out of 10. And that's where a PPC specialist really comes in. And part of that then involves understanding how PMAX actually works, how all these different things fit together, and making sure that you're working with that system to get the results that you want and not just putting blind faith in
Yep.
Google if you press go. But just one, you mentioned demand gen in your answer there, and I'd just be
Mm.
interested to get your take on whether you're a fan of demand gen or whether you've used it much so far.
I think the management can work well for some businesses. It would not work that well for others. Again, it depends on what's the business goal and what's the business budget. I think demand gen is something that requires quite a lot of investment. I think they look at, if I remember correctly, the formula, the way they work it out is they look at recent CPA in the account and they multiply that by 15, I think, and that's your daily budget that they suggest. So it's 15 times the CPA, and you have to test it at least I think for about 3 months to see the results. It can vary from Google Rep to Google Rep, but this is what they tend to say. So it's not very possible to do for some of the businesses that have very low budget. They want to maximize the efficiency. However, for businesses that are big companies and they want to do branding and they want to, as Google say, not just rely on the demand, but create the demand for their brand, it can be a good thing. And I think it can be a good thing if used strategically. So if you are, as a business, if you're planning a big sale and you have a couple of months coming up to that sale that you're building up for that sale for people to return and convert when the products are discounted, I think the margin can be that good extra step that puts your brand name in their mind. You can use lookalike audiences for demand gen, which is not available for other types of campaigns, to everyone's frustration, I believe. So you can be quite targeted and quite strategic with demand gen. So it can really work to create that buzz around your brand, as long as that buzz is leading somewhere.
15 times CPA, like that was the first time I've heard that, but yeah, it's not a low cost initiative anyway. But one of the other aspects of account structure, and you've touched on it in some of your previous responses, is ad groups. And I was at the Brighton SEO Hero Conference earlier this year, and I think I remember someone at one of the talks saying that the single keyword ad groups, or SKAGs, are dead. And I wanted to get what's your take, Inny, on single keyword ad groups versus themed ad groups in the landscape that we're in today, and how do you approach those?
I hate single keyword ad groups. Can we just leave it there? No, I do think that using single keyword ad groups shoots you in the foot, because it's too gradual structure. It's like what we talked about earlier on, is algorithm needs a lot of data to know what kind of audiences are converting and what kind of audiences are not converting, because a lot of people just focus on conversions, but what they forget is that every click that doesn't result in conversion is also learning for algorithm what people are not converting. So, but I think single keyword ad groups it's so difficult to manage them from the management perspective. It doesn't benefit algorithm learning. Right now, the way Google advises to set up broad match keywords, for example, is to set them up in the same ad groups as phrase and exact match, so that broad match keywords could actually learn from different types of keywords that are more focused on your search terms, and then broaden those searches meaningfully in a way. So if you split them out, algorithm suddenly doesn't really learn from past conversions and activity somewhere else. So yeah, I'm not a fan. I think unless there is a very specific reason why business needs that single keyword to go into this particular landing page that is different from all the rest, I wouldn't go for that. I would advise against that, because it would just hinder algorithm learning.
So single keyword ad groups are dead, confirmed. That's it. Like, let them be a thing of the past.
Please do. And please, can everyone watch this podcast? And the first thing they do is to kill them off in their accounts if they still have them.
RIP, SKAGs. If we zoom in on B2B for a second, obviously the buyer journey there can be quite long, and I'm sure most of our audience will be familiar with the concept of, as we've been discussing, top of funnel campaigns for cold or less engaged traffic, mid funnel campaigns, and bottom of funnel campaigns intended to capture that higher intent traffic. But Inny, have you found value in structuring campaigns around those different funnel stages for B2B, or does that become too complicated to really implement effectively?
I think I wouldn't structure it that way. I would only approach upper funnel and lower funnel differently, separately, if the business has financial means to do that. Then again comes in play demand gen and that astronomical budgets that Google advises to test with. So if there is financial room to do that, then why not test that middle upper funnel, which would be probably demand gen or display. Another side that you could do and consider is remarketing, which would be that bottom funnel. But the problem with remarketing, especially for B2B, the way I found it, is that display doesn't really bring good quality, and search remarketing is extremely expensive. It can be 4, 5, 6 times more per click if you are doing remarketing audience compared to general targeting search campaigns. And then when you think about it, you don't really know people who are in your remarketing lists. You don't really know what term they would exactly use to search for similar searches, for similar services. So you would probably use dynamic search ads campaign, which is campaign type that doesn't rely on keywords. It scans your landing page content and it creates the ad and shows the ad if it's relevant for the particular search term, if search term is closely related to the landing page content. So you I would probably, if I would do remarketing, I would probably do the DSA, but the CPCs are so astronomical that it's just not worth it at the end of the day. So there are ways to differentiate it, and some businesses might see the benefit of it, especially the upper funnel versus the lower funnel if they have the financial means for it. But I personally think that there is so much to do in the lower funnel that is sometimes underutilized that I would probably not split it myself. And if I get additional 20, 30, 50 grand a month, most of the accounts could still invest that to that lower funnel, to that search, and still maximize the potential of it because it's not maximized yet, rather than go further up.
On that note, one of the things that came up on previous episodes of this show, and I think we really got into this with Thomas Vitorek on season 1, and that was basically how much per geographic targeting can contribute to massive amounts of wasted spend that some businesses might not even be aware of that's going on. So, whether you're dealing with a big global international brand or a smaller regional business selling in one country, how does geographic campaign structuring play into cost control and minimizing waste, essentially?
Yeah, that's a good point. Google hides some of the settings that are very convenient for them
Unlike
to
them, isn't it?
hide.
Yeah.
So it's always very important to click into that little button called additional settings. So that goes to location targeting in particular, and a lot of businesses are draining a lot of money advertising in the countries that people are labeled as people in or interested in the territories where you're advertising. So if someone from around the world is looking about something about, I don't know, English gardens, they might start seeing your ads for products that you sell only in the UK, you don't ship worldwide, and it's completely irrelevant click and irrelevant ad to show. So yeah, it's very important to narrow them down to make sure that you select people in your targeted locations. And then regarding like if the business is selling internationally in a few different countries, then I would separate those campaigns because they tend to have different landing pages that are in different languages. The ad copy tends to be in different languages. The keywords tend to be in different languages. So it's separating them and making sure that you always target people in your targeted locations. It's always also good to have something in place like scripts that are running that are able to pull the information of where the ad spend is going per country in which account. So you would have the summary, let's say once a month or once a quarter, to just make sure that the countries that you're showing the ads in are actually the countries that you are interested in.
I'm just gonna wrap up with two kind of questions here. The first one would be, let's say someone's listening to this conversation and they've got ideas for, okay, I think I want to make these kind of changes to the account structure. Some of them might be significant, and maybe they want to report the potential benefits of making these changes to other stakeholders. Is there any way to reliably predict the change in campaign performance in advance? And what is your take on Google's performance planner tool for gauging the impact of campaign changes?
Google's performance planner. If anyone from Google is watching this podcast, can those people pause now, please? No, I'm not a fan of the performance planner. I didn't find I haven't had a single instance when it was actually reliable and actually provided the forecast that actually turned out at least somewhat true. Also important to know that if you are using a performance planner, it heavily relies on the tracking setup and which goals are set up as primary goals in the account level. And if you have any tracking changes, or if you had any tracking changes or issues recently, then I wouldn't suggest using it. And if you have any conversion goals that are assigned to specific campaigns. They're still as primary in the account, but they're running for very specific campaigns because there are some of the accounts that are set up that way. Those conversion goals, they will be added to the performance planner as in normal conversions. So that's something to keep in mind as well, because that can skew the data quite a lot. In terms of forecasting and predicting the performance, it's a very, very tricky job because the main problem is that you never know what your competitors are going to do. If your competitors are going to increase their aggression by 10%, your forecast can be completely off because those CPCs are going to increase. If CPCs are going to increase, the number of clicks is going to drop with specific budget. If number of clicks is going to drop, then unless your conversion rate increases, the number of conversion is going to drop. So just by changing that CPC by just 1 penny can have very significant impact on the number of conversions you're getting. I do still think forecasting is important, and the more you do it, the better you become at it, I'd say. And it's also very important to reassess of, okay, so what did I forecast 3 months ago? What was the actual thing, and why there is that difference, and explain and understand it.
That's really interesting. And yeah, I suppose it comes down to managing expectations as well, and explaining like that there is a lot that is out of your control, and this is kind of the best forecast estimate that we can get right now, but there are factors that may impact that. But that's a really good point about looking how your forecast differs from the actual results and trying to get to the bottom of what went on there. There's a lot to look at, but yeah, like you said, paying attention to what your competitors are doing and really drilling down into that does make a lot of sense. So we will have to leave it there, but I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today, Inny. It's been great to connect, and I know people are going to find this one very useful. And if anyone from Google is listening, take a look at Performance Planner and sort that out and start giving us some PMAX insights that the community has been calling for a long time now, and we know it's possible to do. But anyway, we're not going to belabor that point. Before we wrap up, Inny, is there anything else you'd like to mention or let people know about?
No, I think we covered everything, to be honest. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for providing the platform to actually speak to Google and ask for things. I know
Don't
that's
know how
not
effective
very
that'll be.
common.
I can't promise anything, but we'll see what happens. Yeah.
No, thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure, and I do hope this is useful to everyone. And yeah, if people have any further questions or if they want to chat about anything, then feel free to drop me a line on LinkedIn or on other channels. And yeah, let's have a chat.
Perfect. We will drop Inny's LinkedIn profile link in the episode description if you would like to get in touch. But thanks again, Inny. It's been great to chat. That's it for this episode of the Paid Media Lab. Thank you for tuning in. If you found it helpful, hit the subscribe button to get the next episode as soon as it's released. Subscribing costs nothing. It only takes a few seconds to do, but it makes a huge difference to us because it enables us to continue booking the best possible guests and delivering you great content. In the meantime, if you're looking for more free guides, tips, and tools, head to lunio.ai and click on the resources tab in the nav bar. And lastly, if you know any other marketers who'd find these strategies helpful, please do tell them about the show, and I'll see you in the next episode.